started off really just playing soccer. Me and my little brother, we wanted to play a sport, and my dad put us both in soccer. And I tell people the story, a lot of people don't believe me. I made my first tackle on the soccer field.
Gosh, that's a great question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that. Like, what is the it factor?
The It Factory is back for season 2. Last season, we explored what the It Factory is, who has it, and how they got it. This season, we still seek to answer the same questions, but with a new cast of characters. We take the helmet off some of the new faces in the Conference of Champions, and some familiar faces as well. Players, coaches, and experts will explore what it is that sets them up for success on Saturdays. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to the It Factory. Okay, welcome back, or welcome to season 2 of the It Factory. I'm your host, Yogi Roth. We are presented by Zayo, and we're so excited. TJ Brassel, our producer, and myself for season 2. Season 1 is over 40 episodes, and now here we go with Ep 1 of this year, and we get to go to Salt Lake City and Clark Phillips, an All-American at cornerback, a 3-year starter, a leader of this defense, and one of the leaders in the country at his position. And I think a guy we'll be talking about not just this season, but in the offseason as well if he chooses to forego his final year. His story is fascinating. There's a lot of details. Let's go unearth them and welcome into the show, Clark Phillips.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again, and I'm grateful to be on.
I love it. So with that said, take me through your young years as a child and what your makeup was.
Man, where do I start? So I probably go back to elementary and Pop Warner. Started off really just playing soccer. Me and my little brother, we wanted to play a sport, and my dad put us both in soccer. And I tell people the story, a lot of people don't believe me. I made my first tackle on the soccer field. It was actually in a gym, to be real. So it was in a soccer gym. I want to say I was 3 or 4 years old, and my dad, my first ever game, I guess because I always would watch football, my dad, whether it was a Super Bowl party or, just watching games. And so, I get out there, and the first thing I do, I seen a kid with the ball, and I just tackle him. Of course, everyone's like, whoa. And so I look around, and my dad said I started crying because I didn't know, oh, dang, I thought I was in trouble or something, or why is everyone looking at me? Why is, and so that was my, initial, okay, dang, it's time to play football. You're in the wrong sport. And so from then on, it was like basketball, it was track. Got into football, I feel like about 5 or 6, probably, flag football and then all that stuff, and then you get to tackle, and played a little bit of running back and a little bit of linebacker, DN, everything. It was the best athlete on the field. You played everything. So it was no position that I didn't play early on. Then you transitioned to high school and got to play with my little brother, Phillips and Phillips at both corners. Had a blessed high school career with that, and it was fun. Then I transitioned to, the University of Utah, and things have been great thus far.
Yeah, they have. All right, so let's unpack that a little bit. You make that tackle and you start crying. What did your family say to you after that? So
I know my auntie was in the stands. My grandmother, I believe, everyone was there. And so, of course, being a little kid, not understanding, the dynamic of the game and understanding, that everyone, was just kind of like laughing, just like, dang, why is he doing that? It was more of that type of thing, not like now if you've seen someone maybe at our age tackle somebody on a soccer field or soccer court. But it was just like I didn't understand it at that moment, so I was just kind of embarrassed. And I remember I can see myself in that moment just crying, like, being confused. And so that's what my dad said happened. I'm just like, dang, it makes perfect sense. But he said from that moment forward, we got in the car as a family afterwards. He's like, yep, you playing football. Next year, I'm signing you up for football. After the lecture of you can't tackle people.
We saw this incredible photo of you on your social media with you as like a kid comped with you as now a young man. When you look at that, what do you think about around where you were and where you are?
I don't know. So part of me thinks about like because my dad, he's really, he likes to bring up some of those older pictures, even though he has like all these like historic like videos and like super like ancient videos of like me running around in Pop Warner. I'm like, the film looks all glitchy. I'm like, dang, Dad, how'd you even get that out? I'm like, that had to be like so long ago. But I don't know. I think about just the little things, like my dad being a coach, like my second year. Me loving Starburst. That's where I think I kind of gained my Starburst addiction now. Like it started at that age. Like at halftime, I'd always be eating candy. before the game, always asking my mom for candy. And just, I don't know, I think about the little things, the Gatorade, we used to have orange pills on the sideline. So at halftime before the game, we would always be eating the orange pills. And I think about the team, all of my best friends that I'm cool with now, from that time period, from that experience. And I'm like, I don't know, it's something that I can reflect on very often. But now, I don't know, it's crazy. It flew by. Now that I look back, I'm like, it's crazy. Look at those pictures. And I remember getting dressed before the game. Me and my little brother would put on like the same outfit. My dad would be like, hey, we both have on the same headband, but we didn't think anything of it. That's all we knew. But we'd, walk out there looking like twinsies. And, it was the funniest thing. Now I look back at pictures and I cringe. I'm like, why were we wearing the same outfit? Like, we didn't have the same swag, but it was, those little things are the things that I think about.
Yeah, so much is going through my mind. Like, of course, like the Marshawn Lynch comp, like he was Skittles and you're Starburst. So there's something that's unique to that, I think, of the candy at halftime or in pregame. But when you look at you and as your star grew brighter, right, from that moment in the gym, tackling, crying, trying to figure it out, to then I remember meeting you when you were in high school and you were an elite prospect. What was it like for you to manage that? And what were the tools that you had to manage when you became a national name?
What kind of really helped me, I think, was my family, my parents, my dad, my mom. They're super, super humble in their approach with everything. My parents always instilled that, work ethic in me, a characteristic of just like always trying to do better. No matter what you did the last time, it doesn't matter. We're one step forward, one step at a time. But at the same time, staying in the moment. And so I feel like that was something that kind of helped me throughout the process. Yeah, I, started off at St. John Bosco, ended up going to La Habra High School at the end of my freshman year after the season to play with my little brother. And so that's why we were kind of both given the opportunity to play together for, 3, seasons, 2 of which we both played at corner. But yeah, we both were kind of given the same tools in terms of just a perspective and a mindset to just stay humble, stay hungry, and then be grateful, but don't be satisfied. And so that was kind of my thought process kind of going throughout high school. And as offers started to roll in, coaches were calling and things of that nature. And, all of that stuff was coming. I was able to kind of keep like almost like a content spirit, if you would, with just everything. I was super grateful, but I was also hungry and I was excited to get to college. And my dad always would tell me, like, you can only go to one school. Even when I got to having just a tremendous amount of, just a crazy number of offers, it was like that's something that was always on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, I asked that. I just interviewed a bunch of quarterbacks. I wrote a book on quarterbacks. Cam Rising's in it. And a lot of it was like, how do you manage being 4- and 5-star recruits? So much is coming at you. And I feel like labels get thrown on athletes all the time. Like, you're Clark Phillips, you are this. And often, like, maybe that isn't exactly what you want or what you even believe with you. So when that happened to you at a young age, did you just double down on, being grateful but not content? And where did you go when the pressure got to its highest, or the expectations maybe got to their highest in high school?
I think when all of that stuff when I started to get the accolades and receive the notoriety from all those different things and outlets and things, it kind of was more of it was a pat on the back for the accomplishments, but it was a reminder of like, okay, you got to keep on going. My dad always reminded me, similar to our program now, and Coach reminds me a lot of even Coach Shaw and Coach Witt now and Coach Galley. We've got the target on our back. And so that was kind of my thought process going into, every single year. I just always felt like, and I was able to adapt and adopt that underdog mentality, even when I was, a high recruit my last season, really even my second to last season, my junior year. I was already kind of known as a top cornerback prospect coming out. And so I was able to still go into every game feeling like I was the underdog. I don't know, it may sound weird, but I always felt like, yeah, this guy thinks he's the stuff. He thinks he's better than me. If it was a receiver or a coach. And so I don't know. I feel like I was always able to kind of put myself in a frame of mind to where like I just feel hungry. Like I feel like I'm starving.
Coming up on the It Factory.
Worst advice you've ever received?
Get a credit card at 18. I was like, and this is before NIL. This is before, and when you first get a credit card, you're starting off your credit right now, and I don't know, but that was me and my brother were talking about getting a credit card. I won't even throw him under the bus, but I did. And it's like, and I'm like, all right, as soon as I can, I'm gonna get one. And I got one. good thing is my first credit card was $1,000 limit, so I couldn't do too much damage, right?
You referenced playing with your brother. I feel like at Utah, the DBs often coin themselves a brotherhood. And I can remember meeting Jalen Johnson as a freshman, Julian Blackmon as a freshman, you as a freshman. When you came into this group of established guys, what did you learn about the standard at that position?
Man, great question. I learned that really the biggest thing is like there's a culture that's been set from guys time and time again, year after year, and it's our job to uphold that. It's our job to not let that diminish or to not let that fall off by any means. And so, watching me being a film junkie like I am, watching every single one of Jalen Johnson's clips and got to sit down when I was given an opportunity to sit down with him and kind of watch film. And I'm like, dude, I've watched every single one of your, like every clip, like from your freshman year in practice, fall camp to spring clips to everything. Like I've studied your technique, everything. Julian Blackmon, the same thing. And so being able to kind of see how they practiced, to see how they did like everything, it was a blessing for me because it was like I got to see someone, go to the next level. I got to see the transition and then see how they got there. So it makes the process when, I try to pride myself in being a process guy. I fell in love with the process of, working, and then getting a result, whether it be good or bad, and then going back to the drawing board and trying again. And so when you're someone like that, you want to see how it's done. And, if you have a good example, it can only help.
A couple of years ago, I went to practice and I was calling the opener of the season. So I came out prior to the game and something really stuck in my mind. And it was watching Jalen and Julian practice. And it was like they were on like a string together. And the way they were talking and communicating and coaching each other up hard, as well as congratulatory. I was just fascinated. It's a top 5 moment for me in the last 15 years, 20 years in this league in terms of watching elite players practice. Do you have that now? And who's that person on the defense that you're constantly on a string with, communicating with, leading as a voice of this team?
Probably me and Cole. I feel like of everybody, I feel like we always are communicating. The guys that are on the field on that defense, I feel like we do a great job. And really even this fall camp, that's been kind of the highlight, and especially this last scrimmage, I feel like that's where we improved the most, just the communication piece. But me and Cole, I feel like we've always kind of worked in a way that we can always tell each other. I can tell when he's like not feeling something, even on the field. I'm like, or when he gets a little bit more depth, I'm like, okay, this is probably what he's expecting. Sometimes nonverbal, sometimes just eye contact. Yeah, I'm about to do this. Cole, have my back. If I'm about to take a risk, just little things that like you have to know your guys and have a relationship and know their play style, know what they want to do and know what kind of chances they want to take too, especially being a secondary. But it's special. And I feel like, Cole, just having that relationship is special. He's the guy that I would relate it to.
So when I was in college, I studied the history of communication, and a lot of it was Greek history. And I learned this word, which is ethos, which is basically like the vibe of the team. Like, what do you feel emotionally when you walk somewhere, when you get into an environment? Take me through, like, what do you feel when you walk into this Utah program now? Coming off a championship, an epic Rose Bowl game where you thrived, and now you're kicking off into a new season. I'm curious, the ethos of this locker room, of this team.
Man, I feel like guys are just like so motivated, encouraged, unsatisfied with everything. Just almost like it's like a hunger that it's almost like when you taste the good food and you want some more, but you want way more of it this time than you did the first time. It's like that's what I feel when I walk in the locker room. I can tell by the perspective of the guys and the mindset of the guys, even at practice. Every rep is taken serious. There's a energy and then kind of enthusiasm about the guys that I'm like, okay, this is going to be something special. This is going to be something different. And seeing what we did last year, it's all in the rearview mirror. But at the same time, it's encouraging because you get to see where the team is and having the mindset that I have. I'm like to compare and contrast and see how we can get better, and that's how we do so. And looking where the team's at right now, I'm like I'm just excited, man. I'm excited for game 1 and I'm excited for the season. I think we can make some noise some more.
I heard that. But with that said, last year was a magical year. It was a historical year for many reasons. Obviously, winning the first Pac-12 championship at your university, going to the Rose Bowl, but also on a negative, right? You lost 2 teammates within a calendar year. How have you been able to look at the last year And do you compartmentalize it? Like, how do you view, and do you recognize like, wow, that was a historical year in the history of college football, let alone this school?
Yeah, nah, great one. I definitely like to, for me, I like to move forward, what do they say, stay where your feet are, try to stay in the moment, but I also like to, kind of look back at certain games, certain things. Me, I love to self-scout myself, the defense, how can we improve, how can I improve? And so a lot of those things they don't go unnoticed, when you're looking at just you as an individual and then as a team, as a defense. I'm like, dang. But one thing, like you said, one thing that, will never be forgotten is just how magical the season was. It was just different. I'm like, I look back at some of those games like the SC game, Barn, just right at following all of the stuff that took place. And, I think about even the Rose Bowl and the Pac-12 championship. I think certain memories just are glued to, to my brain, and forever memories that I will never forget. I remember me and Cam running out, and all of the guys really, and seeing just all red in Allegiant Stadium, and that was like the start of like something special. I felt like that was one of the things that was like, okay, it gave us a jolt of energy, and we were out there and I'm like, this is crazy. We're 30 minutes before kickoff, and I didn't see not one, I don't know, maybe now it's probably even more exaggerated, but I don't remember seeing any green before the game. I'm like, it's all red, and of course we looked at each other. I'm like, yep, this is it right here. Yep, this is our game. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful kind of homage to the game, to the craft. I think it reminded a lot of people, because we're in this sport that can be seen as a business at times. When you step between the lines, it's still the game. It's still the game that you made a tackle at when you were a young boy, and now making tackles on big stages. So with that said, I love the concept of 22% better. How has that maintained its place and its stature within the program now, where you guys are heading into this year?
Man, it's who we are. It started off as a mantra, as something that we try to live for, something that we try to do. Now it's just like, it's something that we're just on the daily. It's like, it's almost just ingrained. It's a part of us. It's just what we do, I think about just the little things, and it's almost like that unspoken thing. Unspoken, it's not even, I won't even call it an unspoken rule, because it's not. It's who we are. It's a part of our family, and it's a part of just our culture, 22% better in everything that we can do, and yeah, that's something that, I think, I know I'll take it with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no, same here. I mean, I think about that pretty regularly, preparing for games or just, on the daily. How do you live that mantra in a game? Like, do you guys talk about that? Is that ever something where it's a long drive, or you got to make a comeback, you need a hard stop? Like, is there a living, breathing element of that in real time on the field?
Most definitely. The thought crosses my mind all the time, like, what would my dudes do? What would Alo do? What would Ty do? And we know the answer. Them dudes is some workers, and they were worker bees for real, and on the daily, not a day where it wasn't like, hey, CP, let's go get this work. The day that I'm thinking, man, this is the day off, man. Like, and so that's what I always think about, almost like, there was a saying, and probably back, but WWJD, or what would Jesus do, is like some things like that just kind of stay in the forefront of your mind, just like, dang, when you're thinking about quitting, or you're thinking about cheating that last rep in the weight room, like, nah, we can't do that. That's not what we do. It's not who we are. And I feel like even in, real life and regular world things, and really the biggest thing for me was like the mindset and the perspective. And we always talked about their ability to keep a smile, even, in the midst of hardship. Lord knows the things that Alo went through while he's here, and all the stuff that he smiled through, pain included. And so that's one of the things that I feel like will be the most directly applicable, because, life happens and things happen all the time, and daily things, in the morning, who knows, I may fumble my toothbrush on the ground, and I'm like, damn, I gotta wash it before I brush my teeth. Like, just little things. And, you can allow that to impact your whole day, or you can move on and kind of forget about it, if you would, and have a better perspective and kind of look at everything with a positive outlook. That's probably been one of the things that kind of has sat with me for a little while, even away from ball.
Yeah, that gave me the chills when you referenced that. I love that, because I just see you. I'm 40 now, like, you're not even close to that. But when you're my age and you hopefully have a family of your own, like, I still think that's going to be what gets passed, to your children, if you end up having them. So with that said, Kyle Whittingham, he's entering year 18. Right? I was there, dude. I was there the day he became the head coach. I don't know if you know this game, but I played at Pitt, and they played Pitt in the Fiesta Bowl with Alex Smith. And Urban Meyer was departing, and they named Kyle Whittingham the head coach. So they're co-head coaches for the game. And I go to the press conference, and I'm at practice, and I'm like, there is something intense about this guy. Like you could feel his presence, like whether he was 50 yards away or at the podium. So for you, coming in as a freshman to now, like, detail the relationship and how it's evolved as it has.
It's one that I feel like it's an interesting relationship. It's a great one. It's something that I'm grateful for, just because I think about the conversations that we'd had, before season, after season. For me, I like to always ask the perspective of my coaches on my season, on my play, on my fall camp, spring, one day of practice, just always trying to seek like understanding and how I can get better. And so he's one that's brutally honest. He's one that will give you, the bad even when you're hoping for the good, and he's going to give you just what it is. And so I was just grateful I think about freshman season, now right after, I came in with my notepad, and I walk in and I'm like, Coach, I think I texted him, I'm like, Coach, I want to, kind of schedule a meeting. He's like, when are you available, CP3? And I'm like, okay, at the end of the week or something. So we go in, and I just, asked him, like, where can I improve? And he just, we sat there for probably about 10, 15 minutes. It was really, really straight to the point, and he just had just everything I needed to improve on, just on the forefront of his mind. And that's the blessing, too, of having, someone like him that knows defense, that knows the position as it relates to the specifics of it. And the attention to detail piece of it, that's what I'm grateful for as well. And then, his ability to even, coach up men away from ball as well, and be able to lead in a way, and leader. He's a true, leader of men, and it's special to have him in that spot. And I think about even last year, did the same thing. Like, I just want to hear like how I can get better, how can it improve, and all that stuff. And even away from that, the conversation, I think about even the little conversations in between. How's everything going? He'll ask me, we joke around, how's NIL going for you, CP3? You making some big money? I'm like, Coach, I'm not making Coach Whittingham money, but I'm making, whatever. And so now we laugh about it. But Coach Whittingham is a special man, and I'm grateful to have him, in my process and on, as the head coach of this football team.
What did you ask him this year, as you head into your third year as a starter, of like, where do you want to improve, and what did he say?
Just all around, the biggest thing for that translated, even that kind of transpired from my first year to my second year, was like, okay, I need to be, more eye discipline. That's like the biggest thing for a cornerback. Like, and he's like, that's a skill, and that's probably the highlight of every single. He's like, that's a skill that, it can never be too good, that it can only be better. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. And so from freshman year to sophomore year, that was another highlight. Okay, we've got to continue to do that, because if you do that, then, even the best corners, some of them have poor eye discipline. And all it takes is one play, right, to have bad eye discipline, and it's touchdown. And now ESPN is, highlighting you for the wrong reasons. So that was another thing that, we just talked about. I'm like, okay, got it. And how can I consistently work on that? And he's really, really detailed in his approach. And I think that's why he has guys similar to him, in place at Utah. And I'm grateful for them as well. Coach Shaw, detail-oriented as well. Coach Scally, from the little things from the way that your feet are aligned, from inches, literally inches. And so I'm grateful for it. Certain things that you may not even, or may take for granted in your first year, the first couple of practices. I think about my first practice of spring in 2020 before we shut down, and I'm like, this is crazy, just the details. I'm like, I thought I'd just get out here and just play some ball, just run around, but it's so much within it, and scheme and schematic and just everything. And so I was grateful to kind of be thrown into the wolves and thrown, into the fire, if you would, and basically told like, hey, you got to, learn how we do it here. And it turned out really good, and I'm grateful for it. Now I'm trying to impress upon the younger guys like, hey, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is what you need to do to be a part of this thing.
So this thing is, I think, on the next natural step, which is legitimate top 4 team in the country conversation. It doesn't seem like it's overhyped. It seems natural. You guys kick this thing off, as we're in a game week on the road in Gainesville. You've been asked a million times about it. But how do you, as you said, impress upon the younger guys? How do you impress upon them and this team, hey, let's just be workmanlike. Let's go down there and take the next natural step?
Yeah, it starts with practice. It starts with every day. It starts with, the the guys like myself leading by example. It also starts with just taking everything serious. I feel like as we've been doing, guys have to even take another step. Now as we get closer, it's like, don't try to do anything more than your job. That's one thing that the coaches are always saying, and I'm grateful for it, because oftentimes you get in a big game or you get in a game situation now away from practicing, guys think they have to step out of their, realm of just normal and just, now I got to play harder. I got to do something different. No, now it's just a game situation, and now you got to do what you've been coached to do and do your job, and we'll be just all right. And so I think that's one of the things that I want to continue to kind of encourage amongst the guys. And for me and for all of the defense, it's just like we got to continue to just own our scheme, own our defense, and own who we are as a defense and our culture, and I think we'll be good.
How have you, because you've done an illustrious job on the field, but when I talk to anybody within your program, they talk about you off the field as well. How have you, as the sport changes, how have you been able to manage being an athlete, being a student, being an entrepreneur, and at probably different days of the week, different times of the year, each one of them is in pole position? Like,
yeah.
What's your advice on how you've done that?
Honestly, it would just be to just put, people in place to help you out. My dad always says, a multitude of counselors, is the beginning of wisdom, and like that's in the Bible, just like. And so I feel like that's something that I kind of try to live by in a way. My family's super engaged. Utah has a great program where they help us out with a lot of the stuff in terms of just elevate you and marketing type of things, social media campaigns and things like that. And so I feel like just having a good team, I can't even act like I do it all myself. And so having a good team in place to help me out and to monitor everything and to keep everything up and rolling and all that stuff, so that, what I have to do is play ball, show up to events, go to school, dominate ball. I'll erase the play, but dominate in everything, and then I'm all good, And so I'm grateful for the people that, help me out with all that stuff, and keep everything so I can just stay centered and stay focused and not get too, out of whack and everything.
I love that. All right, I call this the final five questions as we conclude the interview here. Number one, best advice you've ever received?
Stay the course. Stay the course. I feel like it's something that it has a different meaning every time that you hear it. In a good way, though. I think about it because every single time I've, thought about it or heard it, it's been, kind of sitting or lingering around my mind. I feel like it's always had a similar but different meaning, And if I'm in a tough spot, mentally or, just with everything, stay the course. Keep on going. If it's another situation, it's like, okay, stay the course. If I have a great game or something or dominate, it's like, all right, don't get too high, don't get too low now, stay the course, baby. So that's just, it's always something that I feel like I can apply to everything I do.
Worst advice you've ever received?
Get a credit card at 18. I was like, and this is before NIL, and when you first get a credit card, you're starting off your credit right now, and I don't know, but that was, me and my brother were talking about getting a credit card. I won't even throw him under the bus, but I did. And it's like, and I'm like, all right, as soon as I can, I'm gonna get one. And I got one. Good thing is my first credit card was $1,000 limit, so I couldn't do too much damage, right? But it was like, I thought it was just free money. And me and Covey actually talked about this. It was hilarious. We sat there in the dining hall right before I even got one. And he was like, yeah, just make sure that and he gave me good advice and he gave me great advice, but I just used that advice as, this is the reason I need to get it. Everyone was telling me not to get it. Someone told me I should get it, and I just took that advice, and that was the worst advice for me at the time.
What did Britton say?
He was giving me just kind of counsel just around just the thought process behind it, the benefits. And of course, he was in a completely different situation with the house, and he's already married and all that stuff. So maybe he could have a credit card, but I didn't need one at that time. I was 3 months on campus, and all that stuff. And at the time, living in the dorm, so your check's a little bit different when you're not on a meal plan or when you are on a meal plan. So I was like, dang, a couple extra dollars wouldn't be bad until the credit card is maxed out. And now I'm asking my mom if she can pay it off because I think it's hurting my credit. I didn't even know for a fact. And yeah, so that was, and then I had to go back and kind of tell them, yeah, man, I messed that up, really did. Good thing we were playing with, a different amount of situations. But now I'm grateful for that. Retrospect, I think it definitely helped me kind of gain a perspective about finances and credit cards at a younger age.
Amen. Amen. All right. Number 3, all of us wish we could play at Rice Cycle Stadium, but we can't. So describe in a sentence what it's like to play in front of the Muss.
It's electric. Dang, I want to add more to that, but I mean that's probably, it's loud, extremely loud. I'm talking before kickoff. But during the game, it's like that's when you're trying to get calls as a defense or as a player, and you're like, "What did you say? I can't hear you." I'm telling Cole, "What's the call? What's the call?" You know, and we're having to do hand signals. That's how loud it can get.
I believe that the most overused phrase in sport is the it factor. It's hard to describe. It's undefinable. But you have it, Clark. You've had it since you were a kid and you made that tackle in the gymnasium. How would you define your it factor now?
I appreciate that. I would say it's just my ability to just be tenaciously persistent, and then just unrelenting with everything. Whether that's ball, the process, you know me, I love the process. I just love the process of just working and dang, not getting a result and going back to the drawing board and then getting it and then seeing how we can refine it and get better. So I would just say just the ability to be just undeniably, just tenaciously, just persistent in everything and just wanting to win and not accepting failure or losses as you know, as truth and as is, you know, just always just being, it's the next thing for me every time. It's like being a corner, the next rep. You know, I can get beat on the touchdown. I have to come back the next rep because we got probably 70 more. So I try to think about that in my life, next rep mentality.
Tenacious. I love that phrase. And finally, when you look at your totality of life right now, and I know that you're young, but you've got incredible experiences, how would you finish and complete this sentence? It all comes down to
love. Love for the game, love for family, you know, love for God. I think with that, Coach Galley actually taught me, you know, love conquers all, and it's the truth, you know. The more that we love each other as a team, something that he said last week, 2 weeks ago, and kind of reiterated, I'd say he already said it, but he reiterated that fact, and I'm like, dang, hadn't thought about it in that way. More that we love each other, the more hard that we can play for each other, the better things are going to happen when it's not just for yourself, when it's not just for my personal success, it's more for my team. I want my guys to trust me. Love comes with trust, all those different things. I want to play for my guys. And so I'm like, I think love is that phrase that I would use.
Clark, I think not only are you going to take the 22% mantra into your future life, but also what you just said around love. Nothing can be more true. I was so jacked for this. I've been tracking you since, you know, you were just a pup. And now look at you. You're one of the big dogs in all of college football and All-American on a bunch of levels, man. Thank you for your time. And go have a blast in Gainesville. Like, put it on them for the pack, for the Utes, for yourself, for your team. And I can't wait to watch you this fall, man.
Man, I appreciate that. And thank you for having me. It's always good to connect and catch up. And I'm grateful to be on here. And, man, I'm excited for Gainesville. I can't impress that enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would echo that. All right, there it is. Clark Phillips, you know where to find him. Just follow the Utah Utes. Check him out. He's got great content everywhere, as he referenced, on social, wherever you want to check him out. Clark Phillips, one of the most talented players in America, and also a great inspiration for young up-and-comers. If you want to model your life and or how to manage credit cards, like, follow Clark. He's got so many tools of wisdom he can offer you. And this podcast, this conversation can offer you a lot as well. This is season 2. We are just getting started. We got 40 episodes from last season. Just check it out. pack-12.com/insider. All of our episodes, you can go to the It Factory homepage. We are there as well. And wherever you subscribe to podcasts, just type in Yogi Roth, the It Factory. It will pop right up. Share it with a friend. Share it with a Ute. Heck, share it with a Gator if you want in advance of week 1 of college football. Thanks for joining us. Peace.